Hi everyone! Some of you already know me, but in case if you don't, I'm Jelena Banković from Stadttheater Braunschweig. I'm a soprano here. In the recent events, we cannot, of course, move anywhere. It is better if we stay home. We kind of have a home office as well, which is possible. And at the moment, what I'm working on is modern music! Yay! I got a lot of questions because I'm doing a lot of more modern music recently. Well, not recently. I started doing it in Belgrade when I was studying there, and also at the university in Berlin, Universität der Künste. What I usually get the questions is how I do it, how I prepare this kind of material. Well, I can assure you it's not impossible. Yeah, and of course the most important thing, which many of you may think, that modern music can only be sung by absolute pitch, so a person who has absolute pitch. I don't have an absolute pitch, so you can do it. It's a myth. Of course, it does help you if you have an absolute pitch, but since I started doing modern music, singing and learning it, also I've been playing modern music a lot. I'm also a pianist. I have a kind of a theory that that the pitch, absolute pitch, can be a thought. So you can learn yourself, you can teach yourself to have an absolute pitch, even if you're not born with it. What is it about the modern music that usually people don't like? Well, I'm not talking about everybody, but whenever we say, oh, that's a modern music, it's always a, you know, oh, poor you, or whatever, oh, who can listen to that, or whatever. Well, it depends who writes it, of course. It's about the message, what represents the piece. It's about the expression a lot, not only about the music. It doesn't have to be atonal, so it doesn't have to not have harmonies. I think that we just have to get used to these kind of things, because in the future this would be old music, so we should give it a chance. And coming from the person who does a lot of modern music, I can tell you it's a lot of fun. It has a lot of freedom, huge possibilities of expressing your emotions, how you express those thoughts or emotions or words. And of course it depends what composer thought of it, what was the agenda there. And the most important thing is that you can actually nowadays talk to the composer and ask him. Well, those are the upsides. Of course, everybody wants to sing, you know, coming from a singer, everybody wants to sing classical arias and operas. I mean, Quando me vo, it's like my absolute favorite aria from La Bohème, again, absolute favorite opera. That repertoire pieces as well, those repertoire pieces. But what is more interesting to me is, of course, what you can do now with the new piece that nobody heard of, especially if it's supposed to be performed like for the first time. For example, what am I doing on and working on is Stimme, composed by Fabian Sankowski. He's a very talented young composer from Spain, and I had a pleasure working with him in person. We also had to discuss a little bit about what was his idea of the music he's going to compose. And we are supposed to perform this piece at the Biennale in Munich, crossing fingers, on 16th of May. There's a huge work, tons of work. For example, this is one little page here. You need to have a strategy when you're working with modern music, when you are learning something like that. It's very hard to learn, especially by heart, but it's doable. You just have to be smart when you start learning it. So it depends of how much time you have. If it's a longer period of time, then you can start from, you know, little sections and from the beginning and then go till the end. If you don't have time, which usually we don't have a lot of time, well, I'm talking from my point of view as a fest, as being in a contract here, since we have a lot of production in one season. So it's basically jumping from one to the other. So learning period is a little bit tricky. Hopefully it's gonna be better. Wink, wink. Depends, of course, how fast can you learn something. For me, it helps a lot because I'm a pianist and I can also accompany myself. But if you're not, that's also okay. You usually have a lot of help from other pianists in the theater. For example, I have a lot of help from Alexis Agrafiotis. My kind of strategy is, of course, every piece is different from itself, from another piece. So, for example, with this piece, first I have to just run through it to see how big it is. And then what caught my eye as the most difficult place, so I usually start with that. This is how I learned also L'Invisible. It's a modern opera from German composer Aribert Reimann. I started with the third act, where I was Ygritte. Yeah, it's a beautiful opera. With the Transstimme, this opera that I'm doing now, I'm starting with the first scene. A lot of, let's say, Koloraturas, so small notes, Verzierung in German. And in my case it's here, so I kind of decode it. For example, I don't know if you can see this here. Of course, it's very hard to show. So I have to know the bar. So what's the, let me see, 3/4, 4 bar, yeah. And then what comes on what, right? For example, this is a place where we have here a quintola in this bar here. So how I learned this? I learned the beginning of the pitch is D, and the end of the pitch, the end of the group. So it's about the group of the 5 notes. So the beginning of the first fifth note. First note in the quintola is D, and the last one is D. So it's an octave jump. And everything in between, I see what is the half note, what is chromatic. Microtones. That's very hard to learn because our ear is learned for normal notes. For example, especially if you're a pianist, you learn as it is. So C is C, then you have C sharp, cis, then you have D. And here we have like a couple of notes, for example, quintola, so the group of 5 notes from D, from C1 to D1. So when you see it on the piano, that's like a secunda. It's basically, it has C, cis, D. So C, C sharp, D. This is how I'm learned, and most of us, we hear it like this. But what are you gonna do if you have 5 notes, a quintola that is supposed to go from C till D? Up or down, it depends. For example, also what here is very difficult is to find the direction. For example, from up till down, and the beginning. So it's basically decoding for me at the beginning when I start learning something like this, and then just break it down in parts. So I'm not, of course, no one in the right mind can learn immediately everything. Maybe someone will be born with this talents. This is how I do it. And just repeat, 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 repeat. When I know it, after a couple of repeating, I try to break it down. So, for example, first scene, I had, I think, four parts in the first scene that I kind of also recorded. So the first scene was, let's say, 10 bars. The first part of the first scene was 10 bars. So I first learned the 10 bars with, it's basically solfeggio. So for modern music, I have to say you have to know your intervals. You need to know solfeggio. So you need to know if it's written, okay, a jump, 7th jump up, or a big terza, so C, E, or a quart, you know, C, F. You need to know how to sing this. What I did here, I made those kind of, so I break down the scene 1 in 4 parts, and the first part I first had to do solfeggio, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're not only, I mean, I showed you just 1 page, so they're not only parts where you have to sing, but also they're like inhale, exhale, sounds, a lot of hissing, a lot of shh. You know, this is what makes fun, what makes the most of fun doing this kind of music. It has a lot of freedom, a lot of, let's say, ways of expressing the text, the emotion, and it's about expression, as I said at the beginning. So, yes, so basically I make the first part, I record it like this. First of all, I have to repeat it several times so I actually know what I'm doing. And then I record it like that. And this is how I do for the whole scene. And record, and then, you know, when I'm home, when I'm cooking, when I'm vacuuming, when I'm running or in the gym, I play this recording on my phone. And this is how I learn it. I just have to repeat this to have it as, you know, at the end, it just starts being there. It's there, the intonation, everything. This is my way of learning. Of course, sometimes you don't have that much time. You have to learn something very, very fast. So this is nightmare. This is a nightmare when you don't have enough time to do this. But it's doable. It always seems whenever I get the score, the new score, and I have to start from the beginning, I have this panic. Oh my god, I cannot do it. This is not possible. How am I ever going to start doing it? And then you just make 1 step. And then after this step, okay, so let's do another 10 bars. Okay, so let's go back and repeat this. And then another 10 bars. And then, oh, slow, so I'm already gone through first scene. And it's, you know, like step by step, and you're gonna be there. Later, this is only the learning part about your music. So before you start having the stage rehearsals, you need to know your music. Sometimes that's not possible to be completely prepared from the beginning, so yeah, you have to have your score. But with modern music that's really tricky, so you need to know what you're doing in every bar, in every in every step of the way. You need to watch the hand. You know, you don't have support from the orchestra sometimes. I mean, many times you don't have any harmonic orchestra support or anywhere else. Or sometimes, for example, when I did L'Invisible last May in Stadttheater Braunschweig, you need to depend. You depend a lot on your colleagues. So if they're in the right pitch, you know their last tone, and then if you have enough time to just, okay, their last tone was D, oh, now I have to make the 6 down. So if you can find it very quickly, and then of course if you repeat it a lot, it's there, it's just there. We just had now Angels in America, wonderful opera from Hungarian composer, which we had the pleasure to meet, and he was here for the premiere. Peter Euch. We had my role was the Angel of America. So my role was, let's say, the most singable role. I had the most beautiful melodies in the whole opera. We had a lot of fun with that, and there was also one scene where I had to produce some unnatural sounds.
A moment. This organization is... He says he hasn't had any. Yes, in the kitchen, under the tiles,
and this is really fun. It's fun doing this kind of music, really. It has a lot of freedom. When I was singing L'Invisible from Aribert Reimann, there was a lot of jumps. So what you need there is to basically warm up for the role. So it's not like, ah, yes, this is my Fach, or this is not my Fach, or, you know, a lot of music, modern music, is not written as it was written before. For example, you know, composers before, they wrote specifically for a singer, for one singer. So now you have, you know, a coloratura Fach, dramatic, lyric. In modern music, that's kind of like a mishmash. Of course, you need to see, I always insist to see the score before I accept something and I say, okay, this is doable, because you need to see, if otherwise you're just gonna be surprised at one moment and say, okay, this is something, maybe it's not for me, but then it's too late. But as I said, there is a lot of freedom, and most of composers are here, and you can also talk to them. So they, what is the part that I really love is that they want to help you. They want to help you. They want to just be there for you, and especially if you say, okay, you know, this part is a little bit tricky. Can you, especially if you don't understand something, how you're supposed to perform this, you can always ask. So this is also the fun stuff of doing the modern music. I mean, I cannot ask Puccini what he meant at that point, you know. Yeah, that's it. I hope you like this video. Stay home and be safe. Bye!